Hey there everyone, it's Simon again from Simon's Successful Selling Guide. Today I've got a new video for you, which we're going to look at how to run a successful demo. So within this short video, I'm going to give you some hints and tips and tricks, just how to run that demo and wow the audience and, get them to thinking, actually, yeah, we should be buying from you if we are looking to buy software. So with that being said, we'll jump right in. Okay, doke. So what we're going to cover in this video is ultimately 4 different areas that are going to really set you up for success when you're running your demos. So first of all, that we're going to cover is preparation. Then we're going to look at setting the scene. Then we're going to look at discovery, and then actually why choose you, which is obviously the most important, because when you're running those demos, you want to be able to prove actually why you once you are running them. So in terms of preparation, super important this. Now, preparation can be looked at in a couple of different ways, which I'll cover. The first of which is working with a salesperson. It could be your AE, sales manager, account manager, etc. Just to work out actually, first of all, from an opportunity point of view, what information have we gathered so far? What are the key points that we've gathered that we may want to use for the demonstration? So if you've been on the discovery already, if you've done any research, you might have an idea of that. The preparation stage is really going to allow you to first of all confirm that, but also start to learn if you haven't been involved in that process already. That information is going to be gold dust, because what you're going to hopefully want to do is use that in the demo itself, and I'll come back to that a little bit later on. Now, other points that you might want to cover in the preparation could be things like, who does what and when. It's probably assumed that the SE is going to run the demo, but who does the introduction? Who's going to be asking the questions during the demonstration? When are those questions going to be asked? Who's going to be doing the validation points? Maybe call back to case studies, etc. Who does what when is going to be really important. Also, let's just validate actually how long the sales rep needs you to do the demonstration for. Is it 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, etc. Obviously depending on how long the time limit is for the demonstration. That's super important, because what you will want to do is leave some time at the end, for questions, for next steps, etc., etc. So knowing actually how long you've got is going to allow you to prepare for that demonstration and allow you to finish exactly when you need to finish within the demonstration. Another area of preparation could be in terms of preparing for the demo itself from your point of view, from an SE point of view. So do you need to create content? Do you need to create any data for the demonstration? If it's a first line demo, maybe that's not necessarily, but if it's a later demo down the line, maybe you do want to start doing some customization to the platform. So let's just get that organized early, practiced, and ready to go. Practice again, another part of the preparation stage. If it's a big demo, maybe you want to do some practice before you run it. If it's a first line demo and it's a demo you've done many times before, maybe you don't need to practice it. But if there's a level of customization, if it's a big deal value, if there's a lot of people involved, maybe you do want to do some practice runs just to make sure that you're good to go when the time comes to run that demo. So preparation, super important. Setting the scene. Now, this is really important, because this is something that was taught to me from one of my old sales managers, is, setting the scene in terms of what we're going to cover. Now, you might want to do that visually with slides. You might want to do it just simply, by word of mouth. So ultimately, what I mean by that is what you're going to cover. So if you're going to cover A, B, and C within the demo, let the audience know A, B, and C is going to be covered. What you might also want to start doing is actually just validating that that's what they're expecting to see. You don't want to go in with the expectation to cover an A, B, C, when actually the audience is looking to cover D, E, and F. So finding that early gives you a little bit of time to maybe pivot, maybe make a plan B in terms of what you're going to cover, or maybe just add some extra time at the end where you cover the additional points if indeed you do need to still cover A, B, and C within there. So setting the scene is certainly important. Again, I spoke about preparation and leaving time at the end. what you probably want to do in here as well is just give them an idea of actually the audience, an idea of how long the demo is going to last and why it's going to last that long. They might be expecting an hour demo, but if you're doing 40 minutes, let's explain why. At the start of the call, we're going to do some discovery. During the demonstration, we're going to be asking some questions. And at the end, we want to leave some time as well for any final questions, next steps, etc. So that is obviously going to then take up the main bulk of that course. Just so you're upfront with them in terms of the expectation setting. Discovery. Anybody that's seen any of my videos before knows how important to me discovery is. So at the start of every demonstration, regardless if I've met the people or not before, I'm always going to run a quick discovery just to make sure I'm validating, make sure that I'm making sure that I'm on the right track in terms of the demonstration. Discovery doesn't just stop at the start of the call though. As mentioned, let's make sure that we're asking questions, whether it's you, whether it's the salesperson that's validating those questions as you're going through. Asking, are we on the right track? How would this make your lives easier? What would the impact be if we could solve these problems for you, etc. Keep asking questions as we're going through. The more information you're gathering, the more you're capturing in terms of, are we on the right track? How we can have validated that this is going to be useful. You might want to use that information later on in further follow-up in terms of business cases, etc., etc. Why choose you? Now, this is obviously super important. No one's running a demo because they just want to show off the platform. There's always going to be a reason for that, and ultimately it's why buy from you, why choose you. So ultimately, let's use all that discovery as we mentioned. Let's use all the information that we've gathered so we can start to build a really customized demo for the prospect. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean customized in terms of content, although you may want to do that. What you might want to customize is the talk track. What you might also want to customize is actually what you show. Rather than doing that feature dump of everything, maybe create some demo chapters, digestible demo elements that are focusing on those business problems, the impact, the pain, how we can improve that revenue, etc. So rather than showing everything, let's make it smaller and make it more digestible and make it relevant to them and to the planes. Let's use a storytelling approach. So that rather than just this is a button, if you click this button, this is what happens. Let's make it a story for the audience. So you told us that you've got a problem, with your revenue. Well, what I'm going to show you today in the demonstration is how we can solve this revenue problem by doing these different steps, and it's going to solve the problem for you. So storytelling is going to make it a lot more easier way to digest. And if you want to see an example, I put an example of storytelling versus feature dumping in my YouTube channel if you're interested in seeing it. So storytelling, super important. This is going to give you that ability to go back to all of those value points and actually why it's important and how we navigate to the end of the close and winning that deal. Now, if you are running any demo chapters or any type of demo, I wholeheartedly recommend you going with the tell approach, which is ultimately telling them what you're going to cover, showing them, and before you go on to the next demo chapter or the next part of your demo, let's tell them again. Let's recap what we've shown. This is what we're going to cover. This is what we have covered. How do you feel about that? Again, it gives you a chance to ask a question, validate. Are we on the right track? Once you've done that, let's go back to the tell again. Right, okay, now we're on to the next part of the demonstration. In this is what we're going to cover. You run the demo and then you tell again what you've covered. So ultimately what you're doing is, if you like, make it almost like an index of what you're covering and a conclusion at the end once you've completed that demonstration. So that for me would be the four big tips: preparation, setting the scene, discovery, why choose you, and why choose you, making it much more of a customized approach, a demo based approach, a storytelling based approach, and using the tell technique in order to show show what you're showing and why you're showing it, and validating. And hopefully by the end of the demo, you're going to get some great feedback. You're going to get some indicators as to whether you're on the right track, whether there's more work to do, but it will, certainly stand you in good stead. So with that being said, as always, happy selling. Hope you find this useful, and let us know in the comment section, if you've got any questions, ideas, or feedback regarding it.